Welcome to the Irreplaceable Dental Assistant Podcast, brought to you by Dane, Dental Assisting Made Easy. This is a safe space to be mentored, empowered, energized, and equipped. Welcome to another episode of the Irreplaceable Dental Assistant. Now, I don't have a guest directly sharing with me today, but I'm going to share some thoughts from one of my mentors, Dr. Darius Daniels. Today, we're going to speak about emotional intelligence, or it's otherwise known as the emotional quotient, or EQ for short. All of life is integrated. To live your best life and to do your best work, you have to be emotionally healthy. Most of us look through the filter of our emotions to process daily interactions. The cleaner our emotional filter is, the healthier our decisions and reactions will be. I'm going to say that again. The cleaner our emotional filter is, the healthier our decisions and reactions will be. Insecurity, hyper-aggressiveness, and passivity are filters that often have us reacting in ways that aren't healthy, that aren't effective. EQ affects everything. It affects our ability to set or not set boundaries. It affects our communication and relationships. And of course, all these things ultimately affect our ability to perform, which ultimately affects our income, our ability to earn. Point to ponder. Our emotional intelligence affects 58% of our on-the-job performance. 58%. It's probably one of the best predictors of performance in the workplace. The great news is that EQ can be developed. It can enhance our natural capabilities. It can enhance our aptitude. EQ is our ability to recognize our emotions and the emotions of others. And EQ gives us the ability to use this information to manage our behavior and our relationships. It really is not based on how smart someone is. And EQ affects a couple of things. Number one, it affects our self-perception and expression. How do we perceive and how do we express ourselves? Number two, EQ affects our interpersonal skills. Number three, it affects our stress management, how we cope with challenges. And finally, would you believe that EQ affects our decision making? It sure does. You can't live your best life without being able to master these four well. We have to look within ourselves first. Remember that the one person that you have influence over is yourself. So let's see what we can do on a daily basis to let our emotional intelligence help us. Okay, EQ can help us to accept criticism. It can help us to move beyond making a mistake. EQ makes it okay or comfortable to be able to say no when it's necessary. And the ability to share our feelings. Let me tell you, EQ helps with problem solving, and that works for anyone. And it helps us to be able to empathize with people. EQ helps us to have excellent listening skills and to understand why we do the things we do. And finally, not be judgmental. Spending time to understand and manage our emotions will definitely improve not only our relationships with our team members at work, but with all of our relationships. Guess what? You and I will always behave in a way that is consistent with the way we see ourselves. And we will tolerate relationships that are consistent with the way we see ourselves. In other words, the way we see ourselves is really giving other people a gateway or a view as to how we want to be or how we accept to be treated. That's a nugget right there. So let's talk about some steps to take to improve our emotional skills. The first thing we have to do is something that we all struggle with. We say that we listen, but many times we're formulating the answer before whoever is speaking is finished. But we have to listen. To be a good listener, we must pay attention. Our patients and team members communicate with more than words. What's the body language telling us? Because a lot of times, the body language tells us far more about the message being sent than the actual words. We also have to be able to empathize. We must be able to put ourselves in someone else's shoes. Just imagine how you would feel in that person's situation. So is your team member stressed or not feeling well? Or could it be that the patient is anxious? We have to be able to empathize. And finally, we have to be able to reflect. When thinking about someone's response, think about what they may be feeling. If your boss is responding, is he anxious or frustrated or angry? And how do your emotions differ from his? Think about the role emotions play in how your colleagues or patients react and behave. And what are some coping mechanisms? Okay, throughout the day, check in. See how you're feeling. Are you anxious? Are you irritated? Are you calm? Are you happy? Check in and see where you are in the moment. Then do that cleansing breath if you need to. Exhale and count to 10 and give yourself time to reflect before responding to someone who is emotionally charged, aka upset. And if you're feeling upset or fired up, acknowledge that you'll respond. However, you need time to process. It's okay to ask for time to process as long as you don't leave the issue hanging indefinitely, because guess what? Avoidance, that's not an option. I also want us to resist the temptation to be impulsive or hasty with our actions or responses. Sometimes you just need to step back and take a minute before you respond, because sometimes responding in the moment puts you in a sea of regret. All right, we all have work to do to improve our level of emotional intelligence, but being deliberate about it allows us to constantly improve, constantly be on the grow. So today I have 2 quotes for us. The first one is by Dale Carnegie, and Dale says, When dealing with people, remember you're not dealing with creatures of logic, but with creatures of emotion. And the second quote is by Travis Bradberry. And Travis says, emotional intelligence is your ability to recognize and understand emotions in yourself and others, and use this awareness to manage your behavior and your relationships. I tell you, the more I share, the more I learn. I have to be more consistent with checking in with myself. How am I feeling? What about you? Do you need to breathe a few cleansing breaths before responding? Do you need to give yourself time to process and evaluate the situation before responding? Maybe. Remember, faster isn't always better. You don't have to be a Usain Bolt in every situation. Slow down. You may be missing some very important clues. Most of all, put yourself in the other person's shoes. Could they be going through something that you aren't aware of? Something that could have them on edge? Think about what Dale Carnegie said. When dealing with people, remember you're not dealing with creatures of logic, but with creatures of emotion. All right, my friends, don't be selfish. Share this episode liberally. Subscribe, like, and comment. I love feedback. So let's live, learn, and grow together.